Free agency rumors are starting to pick up surrounding the Toronto Maple Leafs and a variety of their players, specifically Nick Robertson. We have a lot of news to break down today as there have been a couple of new teams that have been recently linked to the forward, and what's going to happen with Nick Robertson is still up in the air, but this is a very pressing situation for Brad living in the Toronto Maple Leafs. I'm going to break all this down on this stream, so welcome in everybody, or if you're watching this after the fact, welcome. A lot to go over today. It is a Sunday night and interesting. We don't usually stream on Sundays. This is a little bonus stream for you all. We will still have our stream. We should still have our stream on Wednesday, but Darius, some interesting stuff to go over today. And the Nick Robertson, again, it's a late August Sunday, so we're the news isn't too hot, but some Nick Robertson stuff has started to come out. We're gonna be discussing his situation and just the Toronto Maple Leafs kind of free agency situation as well. But Darius, how are we doing? It's an interesting time to be a Leafs fan right now, especially given everything that's going on around the NHL and specifically Nick Robertson, because that's the big question mark.
Yeah, especially Nick Robertson. I mean, we made a video on it earlier and I saw the comment section. This is a hot topic. Like people are upset about it for both reasoning, right? Both sides of it. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens. We have some insight here we're going to dive into. And some rumors circulating about Pittsburgh possibly offer sheeting him. That's the only reason we included offer sheet in one of the options in the polls here, which everyone's voting on, which some interesting answers popping up here. But that's the only reason I really included offer sheet in that, because Pittsburgh's involved and Kyle Dubas, and that's a real possibility now. So that's pretty crazy. And it's going to be fun to watch. Like the preseason's coming up, like besides all of this, the Nick Robertson drama. And of course, we're going to have to worry about Mitch Marner. The season's almost here, like training camp's almost starting and fall's around the corner. It's a good time of year. I always love it when the season starts. So it's going to be fun. It's fun and enjoyable, but hopefully this gets wrapped up pretty quickly. Hopefully we get an answer like pretty quickly here.
Yeah, a lot of anticipation for the Robertson stuff. What's up, Shane? Landtrack was in here earlier, and Jose. Jose is back. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff to go over, as well as, again, the season starts. It is an interesting time of the year. The season starts in a couple of, a bit under 2 months now, and I can't believe the Robertson situation is still ongoing. We obviously kind of got a resolution to the Mitch Marner situation to a degree, but I'm going to ask the chat here in a minute, what's our level of concern here for the Nick Robertson situation? You obviously have the poll up where it's trade, resign, offer sheet, whatever it ends up being, but there has to be some sort of concern level if you're a Toronto Maple Leafs fan here. And we know that a while ago the report came out from Chris Johnston saying that sources say that RFA Nick Robertson has no plans to re-sign with the Leafs this summer and has informed the team he would like to get traded. What's up, William Peterson? Welcome to the streams. Yeah, we're going to be a lot more consistent with the streams now. And Shane, we have Collins Wednesday like planned. This is a bit of a bonus for you guys. But we obviously rewind back to the start of the offseason. We know that Nick Robertson requested a trade out and he has no plans to re-sign with the Leafs. And you have some stuff coming out about Pittsburgh. We had a video today. The Stars could be interested. We'll dive into all these teams, but it seems like a decade ago that the Nick Robertson stuff was at the headline of the news, and now here we are months later, and it's still here. And I'm curious to see what everyone's opinion is on if there's a concerning level. What's up, Robert? But yeah, I don't know. It's interesting to me.
I thought this was going to wrap up a lot quicker, honestly. And maybe that's just me being naive, but I thought that Robertson having no leverage this situation was going to figure itself out and he was going to resign and just kind of bite the bullet because, like on screen right now, Jake DeBrusk, stayed with the Bruins far past when he asked for a trade. Seasons on end, right? Like maybe 4 or 5 seasons he stayed with the Bruins till his contract ended. So I was thinking it was just going to be something like that and he would ride it out, just, accept the qualifying offer and just go for the year and see, what happens after this year. Because obviously new coach, maybe he'd get another opportunity. I think Nick Robertson's a great offensive player, like almost elite. I don't want to say elite, but, he's got to show it in the NHL. But I think there's a really high ceiling there, at least offensively. But yeah, very interesting so far this offseason. I thought this was going to wrap up earlier, and now it's looking like he's not even going to be a Leaf. Now it sounds like he's really standing pat on what he wants, which is to I guess to not be here. I don't know what it is exactly. Weird. If he just wants a better opportunity or to not play in Toronto, right? The messaging is getting kind of messed up. Same with the Mitch Marner stuff. So we're gonna have to see what happens.
If you're in the chat right now, type, again, the poll's ongoing, but type yes or no. I asked this, I don't know if it was last week or ago. Do you think Nick Robertson is in the lineup on game 1 against the Montreal Canadiens? Just yes or no. I want to see now what the sentiment is. Again, there's been some new rumors since the last video or the last stream we had. Just a simple yes or no. I'm curious to see, do you think Nick Robertson starts? Not whether you want to, but whether you think he ends up playing play a game for the Toronto Maple Leafs this season, specifically in the first game of the year. And yeah, you mentioned it. It's very you're obviously a big Nick Robertson guy. I don't mind
Yep.
him. But he has a lot of talent, and whether you look at his stats, whether you look at everything you want to look at, he has a lot of talent, and giving that up is a little bit scary. We have two no's off Rip. Williams saying prefer Robertson to stay, but a trade seems more likely. If they could move out of the Marner contract, I mean, yeah, we still have the Marner contract, of course, to go over. A lot of no's.
At the same time, yeah.
Not been any yes right now from anybody in here. And again, that's the question. Is
It's
Nick
just not
Robertson-
it's just not looking that way, is it? At this point. I thought if you asked me a month ago, I really thought they would get it done. But right now, I'm like, when does training camp start? It's 2 weeks away, maybe. I guess at least the training camp, not preseason I'm talking about, but they're reporting very soon, like maybe a week or two away here. So he's not going to be there because he doesn't have a contract. And then what? You miss out on the season. The Leafs get nothing for this player. He's sitting out, right? He could be in the NHL playing for the Leafs. So this is just it's turning into a disaster. They're going to have to figure it out because if he's not going to sign the contract, trade him for something, get value out of that. And I'm kind of warming up to the idea of the Jack McBain stuff from Utah. I saw him play last week in that charity game in Brampton. He's a big guy, right? That, could fit in on a third line. He's obviously not offensively gifted like Nick Robertson, but he could serve a purpose on the Leafs that maybe Nick Robertson hasn't found yet. I still think he could, but he hasn't. And if he really wants to leave, then he has no place on the Maple Leafs. So I think that's something to consider too, right?
Yeah, Edwards saying yes. Robertson has not had the chance to show his talent. Jose, that is the accurate representation of what's happened. That being said, he obviously was put. Now, again, if you watch our video today, this kind of reiterates, the Sharks could be interested, the Ducks could be interested, Utah, the Stars. There's so many teams, and we'll dive into Pittsburgh a little bit as well, and probably in a future video. But the question is, has he really had a chance to show his talents? He played 57 games last season, and it's interesting to me specifically because Nick Robertson, I don't know how well he would, like he has a lot of, I don't know. I'm not going to hate on Nick Robertson, but he has some weaknesses that can be glaring at times is the best way to put it. Obviously, some players have some weaknesses that are less glaring. When his weaknesses happen, they're very obvious, and that is why Sheldon Keefe continued to bench him, quite frankly, and healthy scratch. And do we think that changes under Craig Berube? That is the question. Michael saying, does Robertson's insistence on a trade signal that maybe something is needed, switch up in the dressing room? Robertson's brothers in the NHL will be able to point that out to him. Interesting point. The Robertson situation is going to be one that's for a while, but Darius, we look at his stats here, and it's very interesting to me. He has 14 goals, 13 assists, 27 points in 56 games, okay? So he has 27 points, 56 games. Do we think this is an accurate representation of what the Toronto Maple Leafs Nick Robertson has, or do we think that he's going to want to go somewhere else where he can play 80 games and not get benched? Because a lot of this was because he was getting sat often. I don't know if they can hear you. 1 second. Speak. Go now.
Okay. I was gonna say I think it's because if you look at his time on ice, his average from last season,
It's only 11
I think
minutes.
it's only 11 minutes, right? And this is a guy who we keep talking about should be a second line talent, like he should be up there in the lineup of top 6 on the left wing and should be eating those minutes, and he's not, right? And I don't know if it's necessarily his fault or if he's just not working on stuff in practice. Like we haven't heard anything like that. That is just speculation. That's just something I'm putting out there, but he's supposed to be higher up in the lineup, and that hasn't worked out yet. And I found that last year, when you're a player, it's really hard to, play when sometimes you're going to make mistakes. Sometimes they're glaring, sometimes they're not, right? But you have to take risks, and certain players are high risk, high reward, which is like what Nylander does, right? And I found that Nick Robertson was, he's not great in his own end or the neutral zone. And whenever he made a little mistake there, he would be stapled to the bench, and he would have no opportunity to do anything else after that.
We got a donation from Jose saying want Robertson to stay. So shout out to Jose. You've been a big supporter of the streams. He wants Robertson to stay. I think a lot of fans do. Thank you so much, Jose. I think a lot of fans do want him to stay. It's just a matter of if not, or if he wants to, and with whether Brad Treliving wants to. We obviously know that there's been some rumors that, Brad came out and said he wants to keep Nick Robertson, but I don't know. It's what you were just saying. There's a lot of question marks here. Thank you so much again, Jose, for the donation there.
Yes, thank you, Jose. And I think the thing with Nick Robertson for me too is at this point in time, would it be best to trade him? Maybe. Yes, you could argue that. But we're going to do the whole thing again where it's like trade him, trade him, trade him. He goes to another team and he scores 70 points. Like this is exactly what was just said here from William, right? Like he's going to come in and score 70 points on whatever team he gets traded to. And we're all going to be like, oh my goodness, what a player here that got traded from the Leafs. Like we know that he can do that. The potential is there. The ceiling, he has a really high ceiling, especially offensively, and you can clean up the other stuff. We've seen it with other players in the league, right? You learn how to play better in your own zone. You can. So I'm just scared that that's going to happen. He's going to go to another team and score 35 goals, right? When he could have done it on the Leafs. And this whole time we're kind of trying to find a guy who can do that on the left wing. And I'm not sure McMahon can do that, but I know he's a pretty good left wing, but I was hoping that Robertson can do that. But there's other things missing from his game that a guy like McMahon, for example, is better at, like in his own zone. But
It's interesting.
really high offensive upside, man. I'm telling you.
Thank you, Jose. You guys rocking been here from the beginning. Hopefully, you can keep tuning into the streams. We're gonna be doing them every week. Someone mentioned
I do like that trade.
bunting for Robertson doesn't work cap wise. If you get the cap to work, it could be an interesting deal.
Yeah.
I mean,
I
Dallas.
mean, it doesn't
as well.
work at all, but
No,
yeah,
it doesn't.
Dallas too. With the brother aspect, like obviously he'd want to go play there with his brother. I think that would be a good
He'd probably want to go
fit
there.
for them. Yeah, I could see him wanting to go there, or the California teams like you have on screen here. I can absolutely see that. And a place like San Jose, I mean, it's not really enticing to play because they're going to be terrible. Like they're going to get better pretty quickly here, but next year and the year after, they'll probably still be pretty terrible. But he might want to go there to be part of that. He's still relatively young and he's going to get a better opportunity. So there's that to think of too. But again, I'm trying not to get married to the fact of like Robertson has to be a Leaf because there's that possibility he gets traded, but there's more upside here, I think, still than just trading him away. I think you try and work with him because we saw it with DeBrusk. He wanted to leave Boston for years and he stayed, and it worked out. He was a playoff performer. So
Well, in the poll, it's 54% trade. So ultimately, everyone thinks he's going to most likely get traded or resign, not offer sheeted, even though Pittsburgh is reportedly eyeing an offer sheet for Nick Robertson, which makes sense. And we discussed it in our video today. A lot of different teams are eyeing Nick Robertson, at least in theory, because who wouldn't want to eye a player of his potential, we should say, because I was going to say his caliber, but he hasn't really shown it yet.
Now that is a huge rumor, right? But I did see a lot of articles today about this. Now it's not from any, viable sources or anything. It's not from Friedman or anything like that. So keep that in mind. But that is a thing that's happening right now. Although I think it's less likely. We talked about it today in the video. Like it's less likely that he's going to get offer sheeted. I think more so traded at this point because his value is a little bit lower on the trade market, I think, at this point in time. So it's, I don't know, something to keep in mind. It is Kyle Dubas, so I could see him doing it just to get a shot back at the Leafs. So it's going to be interesting. But another thing that came out today too, we can kind of dive into is, Elliot Friedman was talking about how the Leafs are looking for a left wing still. So maybe, that's starting to turn me a little bit on the idea that Robertson may not be returning, right? They could be looking to trade him. So that's starting to turn me on that too, because why else are you looking for more left wings, right? Because if you re-sign Robertson, you have left wings. But
yeah, I'll probably have a video on that tomorrow, but there's a lot. It seems like at this point, but again, we don't really know. Like, there's a chance that it just plays out to where you'd assume Nick Robertson wants to play for the Leafs or wants to he doesn't want to play for the Leafs, but wants to play hockey. And if the Leafs are the only option that he's presented, but I almost feel like that's not going to happen, which is why a trade is so likely here because of the fact that hey, the Leafs are kind of in a weird spot with Nick Robertson, not one that any of us really expected because at the end of the year there wasn't really any Nick Robertson talk throughout the year at the trade deadline, anything like that. And then, of course, they fire Sheldon Keefe. Nick Robertson comes out and says, hey, I don't want to be here anymore. He doesn't want to re-sign the offer sheet, or doesn't want to re-sign a contract with the Leafs, wants to get traded. Nothing has happened since then. It's not super uncommon around the NHL. Like you mentioned, we saw with DeBrusk, but still not ideal, especially with the Leafs juggling two different situations now with Mitch Marner and Nick Robertson, both. Not that Mitch Marner wants out, but that they need to kind of juggle a few of these things. The Leafs were shopping Mitch Marner.
Yeah, and the other thing I found interesting is they could have offered him like a contract because they qualified him, right? Which is like pretty routine. They do that for all RFAs, but maybe they sign him to a contract. Maybe they work with him in that way, but it just sounds like he doesn't want to play here. And I don't know if it's because he doesn't like Toronto. I'm not saying that. I'm not putting words in his mouth. Possible. Or if it's that he just wants another opportunity, right? He just wants more playing time and he just doesn't see a future here anymore. So I don't know which one that is because he hasn't come out and said that, but clearly not working with the team at all here either to get that to happen because I feel like that would have happened already. So I don't know, a couple of interesting things, and William getting into a lot of things over the last couple of years. Shanahan possibly getting fired a couple of years with Dubas. I do agree with that. That probably should have cleaned house at that time, but
Yeah, we've been
We're
discussing
here, and
that.
you just deal with what's here.
We've been discussing that a lot on our channel. So if you're new, hit the like button. We go live every week, make daily Leafs videos. What's up, Rin Cover? Better learn, better learn Russian. Bink saying sign Robertson, trade Marner. Interesting. I don't think a Marner trade at this point is just super likely given the construction of the team. And if they traded Marner and didn't get anything back that is super valuable, you're really in a rough spot for competing. And they're really trying to compete over the next couple of seasons, specifically with Chris Tanev, with all these guys they signed, OEL, guys who aren't getting any younger. And their window is now, which is why keeping Nick Robertson would be the best situation. Sorry, because you're not going to get a player back of Nick Robertson's caliber in a trade unless you maybe get somebody like you mentioned, McBain. Maybe there's a lot of different. Morgan Frost's name
a lot
is
of
part
options.
of bigger packages, and we still have Timothy Liljegren, who we're hoping to maybe move off from. But
I don't know about hoping. I just don't understand that contract
yeah,
if you're
I don't
hanging
like the
on to him.
contract. I wouldn't
It
mind
just
moving on from him,
was just very odd at that point. Mitch Marner, to go back to that for a second, since that's a talking point for this season too. I just don't think he's going to get moved because he's going to have to waive his no trade clause or his no movement clause.
Now, I think.
And I feel like he's not going to do that. And to be able to find a trade partner that has the, adequate salary to take that on or cap space to take that on it's probably not going to happen. But the thing for me is what's scary is, do you let him walk now? You just let him walk and you're going to lose him for nothing, because on the other side of it, and I'm going to say this might be a hot take because I know a lot of people in this chat right now do like Mitch Marner. If you re-sign Mitch Marner and it's a crazy contract, like he gets a raise and all of this, and it's an 8-year deal, that is a signal to me that the Leafs management is telling the fans we're not serious about winning a Stanley Cup. Personally, that's what I take it. That's what I'm taking it as, because we're not serious about actually building a team here.
If you're in the chat, do you want to see Mitch Marner signed on a however long deal at $11 million AAV or 12, probably 12 minimum? Let us know.
12, yeah.
Yes or no. Rumours Vegas. Toronto needs to trade Domi. What's up, Creepy Clips? Nice to see you back in here. Ryro. Toronto needs to trade Domi. No, definitely not. You cannot let an asset like Marner just walk, and that's the thing. But then you just are we fine signing him for however many years at $12 million a year? That's the question that pops into the mind. And I'm not a Mitch Marner fan at all, as we all know on this channel.
But you're talking sense, where it's like you can't, and so is Shane here in the chat, that you can't let that walk for nothing. That's insane.
So then what do you do?
Asinine.
So hypothetically, what's going to happen is the Leafs will probably be a great regular season team. Things are going to look great. They're not going to trade him at the deadline. Let's say the Leafs lose in the second round. You either if the Leafs made the second round, are we fine with them? Okay, or even the third round. Now, if they lose the first round, it's the worst case scenario.
Yes, because you're getting results. But I would actually even be more okay with it if they lost in the first or second round, but they look like they were in the games, right?
Yeah.
That's the main point. I think at this point, you have to call up Marty McFly and get the DeLorean and go back in time to 2022 or 23 and make that trade and trade Mitch Marner. I think that's like literally the only option, because before his no movement clause kicked in, you could have traded him, right? And could have got something significant back for him, made the team better. But now you're in a situation where you can't trade him. I mean, he doesn't want to go anywhere, and you probably have to re-sign him. So it's what a situation. And what does that contract look like? Because then it might handicap the team, and you're just going to keep him just for the sake of keeping him. It's very messy, and it's going to be a distraction this year. That's for sure.
Yeah, if they end up being competitive, then it makes it a bit easier to solve the contract. But middle ground, he gets max money with a limited no trade protection. Is that middle ground? Max money with the trade protection?
That sounds like he's getting exactly what he wants.
Can we talk a second about the best fourth line hockey last year? Holmberg, Kemp, Revo.
Yes. Yeah.
It's good.
Actually, I would say, what was the one in the playoffs? It was Reeves, Dewar, and Kemp, maybe? I thought that was fantastic. I love that. I think Holmberg, somebody said it in the comments the other day too. I don't know who it is. If you're in here, I apologize. But I saw it in the comments. Holmberg's going to have a breakout year. It might have been Shane, actually. I think the world of Holmberg. Like, I think he's going to be really good this year, and he's going to be a full-time NHLer, because obviously last year he was up and down again. I love Holmberg. I think he's going to be really good, and a shutdown third line guy. Like, he's going to be great. So I do appreciate the fourth liners. I do love them.
Askarov would have been great, of course. I think losing Marner will hurt the team way more than we realize. That is also, a possibility depending on what they use the cap space to get next offseason. That is what's really going to matter here. Offer Marner 8. Bink, I don't know if 8's isn't going to get it done.
The problem here is you have to at least offer him what he's making now, right? Which is okay in the long run because the salary cap will go up in theory. but you still have to build a team around that, right? And their window here is probably 3 years because the guys that they just signed this offseason are going to get older pretty quick. So
I saw a comment, Leafs blew it by not getting Line. Would we have wanted to match a trade like that? And I don't know how it would have worked with the cap space. It would have been a bit difficult because keep in mind Montreal retained all of the salary.
yeah.
Would we have wanted Patrick Line on the Leafs? Little yes or no in the chat. I guess would have been good in theory, but I don't know what the Leafs could have. I mean, they don't have a second, but or the Leafs would have got a second for. I mean, what's the equivalent here? A Josh Harris equivalent.
I don't even know. It'd have to be somebody on the Marlies because I don't know who Columbus would want that's on the Leafs decor. I don't think it would work. It just doesn't match up correctly because Montreal's in a good spot right now where they can take on a contract like that from a rebuilding team like Columbus, and Toronto just doesn't have that. They're older, right? I feel like you would take somebody from the Marlies and then you'd have to give up a first round pick automatically because you're retaining salary on Columbus's end because the Leafs can't take on $8 million. That's just crazy. So it probably wouldn't have worked out. And I don't know if you want Line anyway. You got Mitch Marner right now. You got Nylander. I think you're okay for right wings. Jan Krook is even a good option up and down the lineup. Although I think they should stop that, but he's there if they needed. But they should probably stop that.
Yeah,
shuffling guys around.
And Matthew, right? Probably would have to pay a bit more, but get Columbus to retain some of the assets there. We need to let Berube get a read in the room. He will know what needs to happen to win. It's possible. Leafs Askarov.
This is true.
The boat. The dream is over, even though it was never really a dream. We have too many goalies at this point. Though Askarov would have been. I mean, I would have lost my mind if.
Well, it would have been a great. Yeah, for sure, it would have been a great acquisition.
Give Marner $11 million for 3 years. Did you say it, Darius?
I didn't say exactly that, but I think that I'd be more open to a bridge deal like that where it's like, hey, you can only have.
Depends how good Marner does next season. Because if he puts up 120 points, he's going to go for a long-term deal.
Right. Like, give us a list of 17 teams, kind of like what Shane was saying, that you would not like to be traded to. We're going to sign you for 3 to 4 years, and that's it. And every year, we can try to trade you to the other 15 teams. That's it.
I don't mind that.
Yeah. Does he say yes to that? Absolutely not. But there's no way. But right. He has all the leverage, right? And that's kind of.
I agree, Dr. Curious. The 4 group is a little weak. And that's why they're looking at PTOs. They're looking at guys like Cal Clutterbuck. Nick Robertson obviously might be heading out, so they had to look at some of the other players. Kevin LeBanc. There's a lot of different guys. Moment to give my Yarn Kruk love. Guys oddly underrated. Perfect middle player contract and skill set. I'm going to take since we're all just giving out our.
Yeah, go ahead.
We're going to go with our Simon Benoit train here that we won since the start of last season before he was even really good, quite frankly. But now he's, I'm giving my credit to Benoit here. If it says no, then let him walk. Yeah, I mean, if you let him walk, you get at least the cap space to make subsequent moves to fix whatever's wrong. And if they lose in the first round again, letting him walk will be easy to swallow because they need to change something. Though,
yes,
then the case would be you should have traded him last offseason, which is right now, which is the same conversation that we had last offseason. Well, obviously, people were having out last offseason. Let's trade Mitch Marner, and then the offseason before. And then it just happens forever until now his contract's actually going to be up, and he might walk, like his agent said, or at least test free agency, even though Mitch Marner has shown no indications that he doesn't want to stay here.
I understand being process oriented, and there's a lot of teams over the years, like any sport, NBA, anything, right, that they stuck with it and they ended up winning the championship, right, with that core group after failing. Personally, this has always been my opinion. After the Montreal series in 21, I had all the evidence I needed to trade Mitch Marner. That was it for me. And they went one more year. And after that one, when they lost to Tampa, I said, all right, I have all the evidence I need to trade Mitch Marner, right? And then in 23, where they lost in the second round, they finally made the second round. I was very happy, right? I thought, okay, it's different now because they were playing differently. And they folded in the exact same way against Florida. I was like, all right, they have to do it now because you're not going to be able to do it at a later date. And then they fired the GM. It was just insane. I still can't believe that happened. That was a colossal mistake. Yeah. And there's people who made that decision that are still employed. It's insane.
Yeah. I mean, you said it. Also, if the train audio is loud, I apologize. I'm getting some feedback here in my ear with the train audio being loud, so turn that down. Marner's ego won't let him be traded. It's a shame. Great player. Are we on the Marner train at this point? I'm off it, but I know a lot of Shane's in here. You're on it. Darius, you're kind of on the fence. I know people in the comments flame me for my Mitch Marner takes. It's not that I hate Mitch Marner. He's a phenomenal player, but he doesn't play in the playoffs. I know we spoke about this often. If you watch the playoffs last year, and I'm going to ask people in the chat right now, obviously most of us, I assume, watch the Bruins games. How many of you guys in the chat noticed that Mitch Marner was even on the ice? Like if
There was
you
a couple of games, honestly, where I was like, he's just not a different. He's just a player out there,
like
and he's
obviously you know he's on the ice because he's Mitch Marner, but it's like for what he was getting paid, for what he was supposed to bring to this team, like it's the
and
polar opposite.
the leadership qualities too that you hope that a guy wearing an A would bring, right? And I don't want to like question his character too much because I know he's a professional and the guys like him and obviously he sets good examples and stuff. But that clip of Nylander yelling at him and swearing at him to kind of stop crying basically in Game 4 or whenever it was, that stuff is not good, right? You can't have that divide. You have to be, your goal has to be set in stone together, and it's a brotherhood to win the Stanley Cup, right? And when stuff like that happens, when there's a divide like that, it's just not going to work, right? So when I see stuff like that, it's just not going to work, right? It doesn't make you feel very good.
I noticed he was on the ice when Pasta scored. It's a good point. To win the series, I noticed then too. I think we all noticed.
I think a lot was made. Sorry, Nick, go ahead.
No, I was just Shane. Who's the only guy who stepped up when Matthews went down versus Boston? Marner.
I don't know if that's true last year. I just don't know if that's true. I really don't. And that's just my opinion. And Shane, I do value your opinions, but yeah, I just don't think that was the case last year. And in terms of floating, there was way too much made out of the OT winner in Game 7 as if it was Marner's fault. It wasn't his guy. That's not the play.
It was Riley's fault, really. But
it was Riley's fault for not skating hard enough and reading that play, and Samsonov as well for not playing the puck. Yeah, there was a lot went wrong there, and that's why the Bruins won, because a lot went right for them. So
we all love Marner, but we all know he isn't a strong hard puck guy. Our Leafs are scared of the Bruins.
There is a bit of the yips for sure, I think, against the Bruins.
What's up, Nicola
Don't
Meyer?
forget that.
Let Tavares walk too. He's no longer an elite player. That's a 21. They're not gonna, but they're only gonna give him 4x4 or something. He's gonna get a big discount and come back. Also, if you're new, hit the like button. Let's get to 45 likes. We all like seeing numbers go up, so just hit the button and then it goes up. So it would mean the world to Darius and myself if you could do that. Poor Marner was asked to play on both sides of the ice, hoping to play more offense with good defense like the court. I mean, yeah. I mean, ultimately,
I won't take that away, yeah.
I don't hate Marner as a player. I think he's a very good player. I actually like him quite a bit. It's just year after year. Playoffs.
I think it's also it's circumstance too, with the way the team is built and the fact that they committed all this money to Matthews and Nylander already. Marner is just automatically the odd man out. Just not even because of point production in the playoffs, just he is, which is, it's weird to say because he does actually lead the Leafs in point production in the playoffs. But after like a game 3 or 4 in each series, there's not much there. There isn't. So it's
the Leafs will be a different team this year. I think so too. I'm all in on the Leafs this year. All in. Even though I'm not a huge Marner guy. Playoffs is all about physicality. Rulebook gets tossed out. True. Refs are ridiculous, but
no, it's true. Yeah. That's what I've been talking about. I believe that the Leafs, and I don't know if it was Sheldon Keefe. I don't know what it is about the team, and I don't know if the players talk about it or what that is. I feel like Trey Living was trying to move away from that last year. There was reports of that meeting after the first game in Boston where he said they have to play more physical. They never instigate. All these other teams like Boston, they go after it and they're pushing you around. The only reason I think the Leafs came back in the series against the Bruins is when Nyes did that thing to Pasta where he was pushing him around. He said, "You're not going to do anything to me." Right? That kind of kick-started that comeback, right? So they need more of that.
Really good times. Tavares, yeah. He did nothing to help. Mark saying, with Freeman saying the Leafs are looking for left wingers, who is the best free agent option? JVR, LeBanc, or I mean, probably. I like Pacioretty. I do like him. Probably have a video on that coming soon. But yeah, I like Pacioretty for the.
He might be the younger of all of them too. Not besides LeBanc, but I feel like there's a tier. Like LeBanc is not as good as those two. So I
do Marner for Brady Tkachuk.
I would too, but yeah. I don't know if Ottawa
could be another interesting discussion point. Yep. Brady Tkachuk for Marner. I'd do Nick Robertson for Brady Tkachuk. Would never happen in a million years, but
a lot of draft picks involved in that one, I think. Going out
would be a very interesting team, actually, or a very interesting player.
Yeah,
which would mean the Senators, of course.
Yes, for sure. No, he would look great on the league. Well, that fixes your left wing problem. That's for sure. That's one.
I don't know if
also hoping Nyes. Right. Yeah. Yeah. You're also hoping Nyes takes a step, but
hope to see a healthy Wall and net. Yeah, the goalie situation is very interesting as well right now.
We can get into that a little bit as well.
Walls, Stolars, and
Matt Murray.
I know. Talking to some.
Cowan is a left wing, yes.
Yeah.
Or he plays He does that thing in junior hockey where the left shots play on the right so they can get the one-timer, but it doesn't work when you get to the NHL. So he's doing that right now, but I think he's
He'll
a
be a
left
left
winger.
winger for the Leafs.
Yeah.
Now, I
Yeah.
don't again maybe bring some credit to the fact that he won't start the season with the Leafs because the Leafs are still looking for left wingers. There's a lot that you take out
Yeah,
of this.
exactly. That's a great point, actually. He will start the year with the Leafs, actually.
Well, 8
He will.
games or whatever it is.
But I don't know if he stays there, yeah. Just because of the rules.
Patch is too old. He's ancient. Yeah, he is very old. He is he is interesting. But yeah, looking at the goalies again, Stolarz, Wall, Matt Murray. Speaking to some fans, speaking to some Habs fans, people, they I feel like other teams are. I'm not gonna say they're underrating because I'm not huge on either of the. I mean, I like Wall, but are we comfortable with this goalie tandem that the Leafs have going into next season? I'm curious to see what the chat's thought on this. Because we've been speaking with other fans of other teams, even Darius was us off camera.
Yeah.
It's a little scary.
It's a little scary. And before we jump into it, we'll wait for some responses. I just want to say, because somebody said here about JVR. I try to hide my bias in this, but I would love JVR to be a Leaf again. I thought he was a beast when he was a Leaf the first time. Obviously, he's older, but I think he can add some value as a guy who comes in every now and then and like not play the whole season. And I think he could be good in the playoffs. He was good for the Bruins. So I would like that. But anyway, back to the goalie discussion. Little
Pacioretty, Nicholas Walls. That's who Patch is.
Max Pacioretty, yeah, his Patch. I think like I'm a little worried naturally because of what happened last year, and obviously there's a lot of talk about it. But if they are to stay healthy, and I think they can, because Wall is only going to be asked to play max 35 games, I think, this year, like somewhere in that area. Maybe he touches 40 if he's healthy.
We have an interesting comment from Habs Digest. 50-50.
Oh, wow.
Either the goalies are good or they're not.
Well, that ladies and gentlemen, that breaks it down right there. That is.
It's a good point by Habs Digest. Habs Digest is, of course, the Habs channel. My brother runs it, which is funny because I'm a Leafs fan. He's a Habs fan.
Yes. The duality.
Yeah, the duality of family here.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah, I mean, that's some riveting insight there. I mean, realistically, like, we don't really know.
No. We don't know until it happens. All we know is Matt Murray has not played at the NHL level with his new hips yet, right? Which is a thing.
And neither of the Leafs starting goalies have more than
30. Yeah, like I don't even know if I could search up now what Wall has, but I want to say it's somewhere in the 30s, like how many games he's played in the NHL. So I think the plan is to split it, honestly.
We always have great analysis.
Great analysis.
It was. I mean, ultimately, boo Habs. Shane, I agree. That Line A trade, it was pretty good for the Habs, actually.
For them. Yeah.
It was fun. It was fun. We had that conversation the other day. Boo Habs, yeah. Like, my brother's a Habs fan too, but he grew up. Yeah, it's crazy.
Understandable.
I'll take having Stolarz and Murray will benefit Wall. I'm taking Stolarz and Wall over Montembeault and whoever your backup is.
This is a great point, actually, that Mark makes here, that both these goalies have won the Stanley Cup and they're backing up Joseph Wall. I think I haven't even thought about that till this moment, actually. Like, that's great. You have two guys who've been there and done that and seen what it takes to win, and they're going to be backing up Joseph Wall. And if he's healthy, we know he plays great. It's a good recipe.
I don't have a ton of hope on Matt Murray. I know Darius is high on the Matt Murray train.
If his hips hold up, you're taking a gamble, because I was
no way his hips hold up, is there?
Well, I don't. That's the question, isn't it? I was thinking Patrick Kane got that surgery, and I was like, well, Patrick Kane's career is done. And then
Jose asked, they did not
unreal.
interrupt you, if there's any free agents above 6'2" left.
Well, we got to figure that out, don't we? That's very interesting. That's a very Don Cherry question, by the way. That is that's what that is. But yeah, we'll figure that out.
Do we have faith in Matt Murray? Do you think the Habs will be? Oh, that's a great question, Thomas. Oh, I'm loving it. Let's ask the chat this. I asked them last week. I mean, while Habs Digest is here, I mean, a big rival, obviously. Do you think the Habs will be a problem for the playoffs this year or the next one? Let's Thomas, let me put one out there. And what I'll do. So you said, do you think the Habs will be a problem for the playoffs this year or the next one? I'm gonna put a little text on the screen answering your question. And I think the Habs will be a really big problem in the playoffs around
probably 26, 27.
That's generous for sure.
Just to follow up on that original question, I believe the only free agent left, at least in a top 15 list, is JVR. who is over 6'2". So the rest are all
That's
like,
when
yeah, we'll see.
2050. I think they'll be competitive for a playoff spot in 2055. So we'll still be here,
We will. That's right.
but probably 2055.
I think that's a decent bet, honestly. Yeah. That's the first time. So just to clarify, that's the first time they're touching the playoffs
Yeah.
from now until 2055.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay.
It'll be a long drought.
That's right. I mean, the Sabres are on their way there as well. So, I mean, it's possible. It's very possible.
2055.
Yeah. When was the last time the Habs made the playoffs? When they made the final, I believe, in 21. So here we go. It's going to be a long ride to 55.
And that may, I was going to go 2075, but I think 55 is pretty accurate.
Well, 75, maybe they're looking at a Stanley Cup or something, right? But 55, I think that's a good bet to make the second wild card for the first time. I think that's all right.
I think it's pretty accurate. I think it's unbiased opinion.
Yes.
The Leafs will win the cup for the Habs. I'm not remotely kidding. Oh, yeah.
Well, that's been the goal since 2016.
Yeah, I mean, realistically, we're talking like the Leafs are, obviously my brother Rose has Digest, and I'm throwing some shade out there. I do think the Leafs are going to win the cup before Habs Digest.
Certainly.
2028?
Well, Habs Digest can't win the cup. The Montreal Canadiens can win the Stanley. That's right. Yes.
Habs Digest did say growing up, or what he did, I saw something. Really good point on mentorship for a while. I guess you're hoping Murray just stays in the LTR or plays a lot. Yeah. It was also it's like a cheap contract, the injured contract.
Matt from Mark, Murray's hips will be like Shakira. They won't lie. Murray's 10-game heater is incoming. I like the positivity. I love
Martin Jones like 3-game heater.
Yes. No, wasn't that like a month?
It was longer. Yeah, it was.
Yeah, it was pretty. He held it down. It was good. I enjoyed that. He played pretty well.
The
He played
Leafs
average.
will win 3 cups before the Habs again. I'm loving it.
I do
we're all on
believe
the same page here.
I do believe 2020. I mean, not to put next year completely out of the question, because obviously I would love to see the Leafs win the cup in 25. But I think 26 is looking pretty good for the Leafs. I think everyone's still going to be here. Most of the contracts they signed this year, they'll still be here. Everyone won't be too old. It might be a good recipe, but we'll see. We'll see. And when you're under Craig Berube, that's a big factor.
2028. Yeah, I mean, possible. Here's one for you: Marner for Tage Thompson and a first.
Very interesting. Very interesting, because then that would solve Tage Thompson a center. I actually am not familiar with what he's playing right now, but
I think Toronto
that,
Edmonton final. It's pretty hot.
That'd be great. Yeah, so Tage Thompson is a center, so I think that would be a really, really good trade. I don't know about the draft pick specifically, but that would fix your second line center problem immediately, and you have the wingers. So if Marner went the other way, that would be interesting. It's close to home for Marner still.
Yeah,
so.
It would be. You probably waive it too. We need an Arbor Jack guy. No, I don't think a hockey fan has ever said that before.
That we need Jack guy. That's specifically
Jack guy. He's pretty good. He's good at what he does.
Really good depth defenseman. Yeah, worked his way up to the NHL.
I don't know if the Leafs need one of the, I mean, it could be
interesting. They have. I haven't watched enough of Jack guy in the NHL to make this comparison, but they have Simone Benoit. Isn't that the type of, you know what I mean? Like that runs around, hits guys.
From Habs don't do anything until Anderson and Gallagher are gone. From trade rumor that Leafs have strong interest in left wing Frank Vetrano. Really? That might be a video.
That could be an interesting topic as well. Frank Vetrano, he's also rumored to go back to the New York Rangers. I saw that for a Stanley Cup run. He's been really good with Anaheim, which we talked about Anaheim being terrible, and he's been pretty good. So obviously there's something there. He's a good player. Because if you play in Anaheim, you are like just good luck. Your everything, your advanced numbers are just going to suffer.
He's awesome, UA's Toronto. Frank Vetrano. Where is that report? I'm going to write that down, Darius. Check on that.
Yeah, Frank Vetrano.
If Marner leaves Toronto, it would be to a premium market, not Buffalo. Yeah, I mean.
Yeah, you would think like Vegas, even Nashville, but I feel like Nashville, the signings they made this summer kind of closed that up. But
Jose is saying, did you guys hear the rumor that we were going after Hall from Chicago?
We actually did have a video on that.
Yeah.
But not much has developed since then, but I think it's a real possibility. The only thing is Hall is not going to move until the trade deadline, I believe. Yeah. But he will move at the trade deadline, I think.
It's like the Chris Tanev of last year regarding a Leafs, or Nikita Zadorov of last year regarding someone who's going to be linked to the Leafs the whole year and then probably not actually get traded there.
That's right.
Trade Reeves and Robertson for Remke.
Rempe from the Rangers, yeah. No, he's going to be a problem.
Rempe's good, Matt Rempe.
He's going to be a problem, yeah. I can't wait for Rempy Reeves too, because it's going to happen. Whenever that, I think it's October the 19th, actually, they play. So,
Throwing some bodies. Marner will go wherever pays more. Remember, it's all ego for him. I believe it.
well, I don't know about that. If Utah, it depends how much Utah will be, put in that Brinks truck for him, but we'll see.
There'll be a few
I
teams.
don't know.
Marner for McDavid. I'd do that pretty quick.
No, I don't think so. Leafs are not getting equal value there, I think, unfortunately.
I forgot for Toronto was an all-star this past season. I didn't know the Leafs were interested.
Yeah, no, he had a pretty good season, actually. He's a pretty decent player. That would be a really interesting left wing option if the Leafs could figure that out in terms of salary.
I wish
because
Elliot Freeman
it
would have
makes
given
too
some
much.
more insight on like what level or tier of left wing he's talking about here. Like it ranges from like low end to are we talking
Right,
about?
right.
Like, it could
Well,
be-
I mean, yeah, I just said left wing, so you pull up a list and you're like, all right, well, who is it, right? Like, I think the other thing with Friedman too is unfortunately 32 Thoughts is now written instead of podcast. That's changed. So
I don't mind
I don't know
that.
if
It's
he's
a bit
giving
easier to cipher through
the
what you want.
digest maybe, but also,
Nice pun.
yeah, I don't know. It might be easier to digest, but also like it's weird. I'm very used to the podcast, but I don't know if that's gonna happen this year.
Maybe Freeman will come back. At least win the cup this year. Better be a lot of Marner apologists. I will. I'll get a Marner jersey.
Oh,
I got a
right,
Marner tattoo. No, I won't.
Immediately, yeah. I look at the Raptors and what they did with trading DeRozan. That was a huge risk at the time, right?
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, Kawhi's coming in, obviously a great player.
You'd have to get one of the best players in the NHL in exchange for Marner, though, right?
It's possible though, right? Because the circumstances were different there, obviously, because Kawhi was hurt, right? But I don't know. It's possible Mitch Marner can,
He always had a
It's
written
just-
version of the podcast, but yeah, no one reads them. No one goes to listen. Pods will still happen.
Right.
He did a solo one recently. There we go. We have Elliot Freeman expert here.
Oh,
So-
thank you. Yes, good to clarify that. I did see he posted one right after.
Yeah.
I think it was right after free agency, but I didn't know if it was something he was going to continue to do. And I remember back in the day reading the articles because they didn't have the podcast. This is years ago, but back when it was 30 Thoughts.
30 thoughts. Let's get up to 50
Yes.
likes. We're 19 away, or actually 11 away. Likes and numbers go up.
Mark
Yeah,
pulling
I
out
was
the
gonna say
Nick
that. Yeah.
Nick Robertson for Cole Perfetti. Very interesting because Cole Perfetti also not signed. Also an issue for the Winnipeg Jets. So
Pull another Winnipeg Jets disgruntled player, and they just traded Rucker McGroarty, and now maybe they trade their other prospect.
Perfetti's also from Ontario, and I believe he's a center, right, Nick? I think he's a center.
Just say, hey, screw Nick Robertson. Let's just send him to Winnipeg. Not that I don't think Winnipeg's a bad place. I think it's a good place. I know I got hate for that last time, but it seems like a lot of players want out of Winnipeg. I do believe Cole Perfetti is a right winger. Let me double check though. But he has played center before, I believe. Yeah, right winger.
Okay. It's an option. I think he played center in the when he was in junior.
Yeah.
I believe, yeah.
I'd love to see Marner winning the cup with the Leafs. I would too. Like at the end of the day, if the Leafs win, then none of this really is a like if they make even a deep run, then there's nothing left to talk about.
I think that's what gets lost sometimes. Like when I'm critical of the team because I feel like, they make a lot of mistakes, of course. But like if they were to win the cup, I want them to win the cup. I'm still a fan. I would love them to win the cup. And I would cheer on Marner, if he was, scoring goals, whatever it was in the playoffs. I don't want him to not succeed. I just think there's too much evidence showing that he hasn't, and maybe time to move on. But
don't care if Mariners and Leafs are not as long as they win the cup. Yeah, I mean,
Yep.
I'm not attached to any of these guys. I mean, obviously we are naturally attached to a lot of these players. Austin Matthews, like a lot of these guys, but if they win the cup, like you mentioned, DeMar DeRozan. When they traded DeMar DeRozan, everyone loved DeMar DeRozan. Everyone was sad. They won the chip, and no one really cared.
no, I mean,
all
all is forgiven at that point.
And the point of all of this is to win a cup or whatever league you're playing in.
Yeah.
So it's like Seth Jarvis is also unsigned. Maybe something there. A lot of unsigned guys that could maybe trade damaged goods for damaged goods. Yes, Jose, smash the likes. Thank you.
Thank you, Jose. I think the other interesting thing with Seth Jarvis is the Leafs originally traded that draft pick to Carolina in return, or it was so they could send Patrick Marleau to Carolina, and he retired. He went to Robida Island. So getting it back would be interesting.
The evidence says no Leafs showed up in the playoffs, not just Marner.
Well, actually, Shane is not wrong because Matthews and Nylander for half the series literally did not show up. So you're not wrong.
Matthews and I showed up.
Over the years, Matthew and I showed up. I think over the years, I look for consistency in the playoffs because that's key to success. And I don't see that from Marner because game one, he'll score 7 points. And game 2, he'll score maybe 2 points, right? And then after that, nothing.
Oh yeah, Marner was definitely a ghost. There's no doubt about that one.
Later on in the series, yes. And I hear the because I know people are probably typing right now, but I hear the, he does the defensive side of the stuff too, like the play. He's really responsible defensively. He plays on the PK, yes, all this stuff. He has different responsibilities, right? I get that. But for the money he makes, like, he's got to be a difference maker everywhere. He has to be, right? Because when you look at McDavid and Draisaitl, they're difference makers all over the ice, all situations, all of the time. So it's that type of stuff I'm looking at.
William
And Nylander's
Nylander,
playing
yeah.
on the PK too.
Nylander was great in the playoffs when he was healthy. When
He played, he was
migraines
great.
and such.
He scored. He's played.
He scored in the game 7.
4 games or 3 games. Yeah,
I think it was. I don't even remember now. It feels like so long ago.
I feel like he played 3 games and he had 3 goals. It's not bad.
Tavares and Naj are the most clutch the last 2 years.
That too. I would say Morgan Riley. Morgan Riley was
up.
2023. Morgan Riley was unreal. So
he had an okay playoffs last season. Just the goal kind of tainted the.
Right. Yeah, it leaves a bad taste in your mouth because he doesn't. You got to read that play. I feel like the guy's dumping it in from there. You got to start skating, but that's all over now. But
Nylander
interesting.
Man. He was Jose. I agree. He
Nylander
still is. We have him locked up because that was the conversation going into last season. There's always some sort of conversation with the Leafs and everybody involved in this.
Yes.
Because it is the Toronto Maple Leafs after all. We're 9 legs away from 50. Very, very interesting. We're almost there. Any final thoughts, Darius? Anything you want to touch on before we wrap up? It's interesting time. It's the calm before the storm. It feels like for a variety of Leafs moves that are going to be going down soon.
So that Friedman stuff came out today, and we're gonna have videos on it and really break it down and dissect it. So we'll get into that further, like, throughout the week. But the thing that interested me today through the Friedman stuff is they're looking for a left wing. So because they're looking for a left wing, that tells me Nick Robertson's probably on his way out. That tells me that a big move is on the way, like it's happening, because it's going to be a trade, because he's not just going to sit out. That doesn't make sense for the Leafs either. Like, obviously for Nick Robertson, you're like, you know what, you don't want to play here, sit out. But for the Leafs, it doesn't make sense. So probably a trade coming, which is exciting, right? Because you're going to add another piece, obviously, in that. So to look out for that. The Marner stuff's going to be a distraction all year. It's going to be a talking point all year. It's going to be a lot of fun, a lot of talking about Mitch Marner. And yeah, I think it's just going to be a fun year because I'm actually looking forward to the regular season because something is going to be different. And I feel like the players will be playing for Craig Berube. I feel like that is a major change that's going to happen too.
Jose, I agree. Much better defense. And yeah, the Nick Robertson situation, obviously, is going to be interesting. Habs Digest singer there? A little.
That was weird.
Interesting. 27 points, 56 games for Robertson. So, I mean, ultimately, at the end of the day here, this player right now that we're talking about on August 25th, he may or may not be a Toronto Maple Leaf in a week. It may happen this week. Usually when Elliot Friedman says little things like that, moves happen pretty fast. So little interesting, little not scary, but I know you're probably scared a little bit, Darius, because you're a huge obviously you're a little you love Nick Robertson, so it's interesting.
I do. I think he's a good player, high offensive upside. Again, I keep repeating myself. And I agree with you that, like, there are some insiders that have great insight for sure. But I feel like when Friedman says something, when there's smoke, there's fire. Like, he'll say something and it'll happen a day or two later. So I think this could be a big week for the Leafs because they got to figure it out before training camp, and training camp's coming up here. Like, Labor Day is this weekend coming up, right? So things are going to start kicking off. They're going to start inviting, prospects out, all this stuff. So they got to get that figured out. It can't be a distraction. It can't be, because when they do media day, all the questions are going to be about Mitch Marner and Nick Robertson. You have to figure it out. So hopefully Friedman is onto something. It could be a signing too that we're talking about in the next couple of days too, right? So a lot is going to happen here in the next 2 weeks though.
Doesn't have to be a trade. Doesn't have to be. We have enough soft talent forwards. It's interesting. The difference is going to be better D and goaltending for this playoff run. And if their forwards can perform. That's also a pretty big issue here. Friedman is never really wrong. Yeah, he obviously said this for a reason, meaning that the Leafs are shopping Nick Robertson. They're obviously looking for left wings. They wouldn't want left wingers if Nick Robertson was definitely going to stay with the team, if they had confidence that they were going to re-up him on a deal. So this might be the last stream with, maybe a deal happens before Wednesday. We should also be live Wednesday, but This might be the last stream with the Nick Robertson on that graphic there and with the Toronto Maple Leafs.
It's very possible at this point, right? Like I said, something's going to happen here. I think a signing might happen before, or no, maybe I guess a trade would happen before that just to make way for the signing, because obviously those players will still be there in free agency. Nobody signed them yet. So maybe a trade does happen first, could happen before our stream Wednesday, but very interesting. I don't know. I still don't know where he goes. I think Chicago's a very intriguing trade partner for the Leafs. I really do. I just don't know if it works out. Today. Yeah, I just don't know if that works out like right now in this point in time. But this season, I think Chicago's a really interesting trade partner for them.
Maybe Hawk and Poo will sign. I think Hawk and Paul will sign.
I think he will sign eventually, because they're still, for them to still be working through this. Clearly, they see something there that will be that'll work for them. And if they sign him and it ends up being a disaster, I mean, that's just somebody's got to get fired, you know?
There is, Stuart, a lot of talk around PTOs. A lot of talk. Max Pacioretty sitting right there. It's another guy. A lot of different things happening right now in Leafs land. It could be quiet for a week, or stuff could happen really, really fast. And that's why, again, Mondays is usually when a lot of stuff goes down, really, whether it's rumors and news. So a little Sunday night stream to preface all this. This could be the last time we're talking about Nick Robertson. Who knows? Trades happen crazy. The Line A trade, no one expected that to happen, and then boom, it happened right at the end of that. So I don't know.
And that happened on a Monday as well, I believe. I think it was a Monday. And
it was
with the Leafs, there's no in between. It's either it happens first thing Monday morning, or they have a press conference Wednesday in the middle of the day, or they news dump on a Friday at 4 p.m. before a long weekend. So watch out for this Friday. It's going to be, watch for this Friday. I could see something happening. Them making a trade or signing something. Yeah, could see it.
Cowan or Grebyankin make the team this year. If I had to pick, Grebyankin is my guess. But
I agree with that. Although I think Cowan will make the team per se, but he'll be sent back after 9 games. But I do think he'll make the team. He'll stay with the team.
Any additions going forward require subtraction too.
Yeah. The salary cap they're right up against. The Liljegren contract, I know we need him. It is just so puzzling to me still. $3 million. For a defenseman who's
we need him to be the 17th overall pick that we were hoping we were going to get when we took him.
But he can be good. We've seen flashes. He just has to bring it all the time. And I wonder if his injury last year, because the ankle thing does play a huge part into players. But I wonder if he plays better this season.
Another person saying trade rumor at least maybe in talks with the Ducks to acquire Frankfurt Toronto. The Ducks want Nick Robertson. Where am I seeing this from?
Joshua, can you where is this from? Let us know.
Yeah.
We can definitely deep dive on this and figure it out.
You're seeing that rumor from. That'd be an interesting talking point.
That would be interesting.
If they sign Marner to the same contract as Nylander, then they would be complete morons.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, it just, I don't know if that works out.
Handicaps them.
Yeah. Just you gotta.
We don't need Lily. Guy can't win a puck battle, but someone else said that's what a third D pairing costs now. Debatably, but is Liljegren a really strong third D pairing, or even depending on how much he's been paid? What 1.5 a year or 3 a year?
No, it's 3 a year.
That's crazy.
It is 3 a year. Yeah. No, you know what? That's not incorrect. That is exactly what a third pairing defense costs now. My concern is Liljegren and how he hasn't progressed to where we thought he should be at this point. And the physicality is a real issue for me, because I feel like there are a lot of Leafs who are smaller. Even Nick Robertson in the playoffs last year, thought he played physical. I thought he at least weathered the storm and didn't look out of place. And I thought at times Liljegren looked really out of place. Like,
yeah.
But that's what it is. And now I'm starting to understand, speaking of Justin Hall, I'm starting to understand why Sheldon Keefe played him over Liljegren some of those years, because Justin Hall is more physical.
Way too consistent with scratch most of the games when it mattered most. Josh is he's just another guy in there. Right.
I actually watched Eric Brandt. I'm going to say this for a lot of players. I watched him last week at the charity game. He played in that as well. He has very good hands, but he's just a little slower and he's older now. I don't know if that makes sense.
What about the Russian kid that's 21 and 6'2", very physical? Can't remember his name. I think he's a left winger.
Grebyankin.
Grebyankin.
Yeah. He should make the team. Big fan of him. Yeah, I think he'll be great.
Yeah, Nikita Grebyankin. Jose, there you go. He's 6'2", not a defenseman or anything, but
no, he can score left wing. He's big. I like it. If he can figure it out at the NHL level, because it's a different game than the KHL, then I like it. But he's got to figure that out first. I'm not convinced yet. But
So the
I'm
Leafs
a
went
big
after
fan.
Desharnais. Would have been perfect pairing with OEL or Benoit. Interesting.
Yeah, but I think that's the hawk and paw move. Darnay is
Which is still yet to happen.
a little worse version of him. Maybe that's healthy, but these players too, like you want to sign them, but they may want to sign in different places too. Maybe didn't want to come to Toronto. We always have to keep that in mind as well. But
Lillian a pick for Eric Branson and $2 million retained. Is this on like one of the sites where it just people are just throw their trades out? I feel like that's what it is.
this sounds like the cat friendly yeah.
You think he'll
Armchair
make the
GM
NHL?
thing.
Nikita Grebyankin, it's possible. I think there's a decent
very
possibility that he
possible.
makes the chill.
The fun thing with him is there's no like Cowan rule with junior hockey, the CHL rule where you have to go back. So he's going to be either on the Leafs or the Marlies, and if they need him, they'll call him up. But
Cowan
it's going to be
can't do that.
Yeah,
in NHL.
Cowan can't do that. So it's either up or down for Cowan, and I just don't see him having a spot this year full time for him to make that jump. Where okay, we're not going to send you back and you're with the team the whole time. You can't go to the Marlies, right? It's a huge risk. I wouldn't do it this year, but it'll be fun. I'm a big fan of from what I've seen from Grebyankin. I'm a big fan, but I just don't know. We don't know yet. We have to see in preseason how he adapts.
Liljegren, yeah. Liljegren's signing was brutal. It was $3 million AAV. It was very interesting. Younger too. Desharnais, yeah. But
That too.
I like the Hakanpää thing.
Hakanpää, I believe, is only 2 years as well, right?
1.5 a year.
For 2 years.
2
Yeah.
years.
So it's low risk if he comes in. And he's effective at what he does. And he's
if it
healthy.
solidifies at that. Lillian
Yes.
Robertson in Montreal for Savard and a draft pick. Interesting.
I like Savard. I do like Savard. You'd have to make the salary work, but I'm not a fan of draft picks right now. I'm going to be honest because they do nothing for what the Leafs are going for a Stanley Cup. Draft picks don't do nothing for me personally. Like you want to keep them and stock up that cupboard, of course, because you need to continue to draft players for down the road, like Danford and guys like that. That's great picks, but draft picks do not excite me right now. We need players.
Also, don't know how much I trust the Leafs draft picks, honestly, but some of them are good.
Well, yeah. That's
to
changed
some,
this year. Going forward, it's changed.
It has. Wes Clark is out. They did get Ben Danford, Easton Cowan last year, so I mean Danford was still a Wes Clark pick, but
yeah, I saw some of the Leafs at management at a lot of OHL games this year, and I thought that was pretty interesting. I thought they were looking at Seneca. I think it's Seneca from the Oshawa Generals, but obviously he went third overall, and they got Danford, who was on the same team, so that makes sense. But yeah, they were scouting the Generals hard. It's gonna be very interesting.
Toss in Armia to start throwing. I mean, a trade with Montreal is very interesting and one that I think could happen, but again, I don't know how often. Not too often.
Armia is underrated. He could be good for the Leafs.
You like that?
He could be all right. You got an interesting option. Again, the salary cap has to work. You have to make that work. I just don't know.
All right. Like. Any final questions before we wrap up? It's about to be, I guess, 8:30 Eastern. About an hour on a Sunday. A bonus stream for you all. So hopefully you all enjoyed tuning in. A lot of stuff coming. A lot of interesting things.
Nicholas makes a good point. You could take the draft picks in a trade and flip them for something else. Absolutely. I agree with that. I'm just saying if your end game, because a lot of people make mock trades, if your end game is acquiring a first round pick or a second round pick, it doesn't excite me. But I totally agree with that. You could acquire picks and flip them 100%.
I think Cowan makes it out of camp, plays it 8 games, and then if they need a guy like that, they'll bring up Grebyankin first. That's my guess, because they can move him up and down.
Yeah, I don't know for sure. I assume it's a 2-way contract that he was signed to. I forget it. They signed him so long ago already, but that's exactly what's going to happen. Cowan will make the team, and then he'll go back down after 8 games. Thank you, Shane. Thank you.
All right, that'll wrap it up there. Hopefully you all enjoyed it.
OEL. Sorry, before we go out, just want to make sure everyone's heard. OEL would be my pick to start on the power play. Yes,
the per top power play.
Just to see how it goes, and if it doesn't work, you put Riley back there. But Riley is like a decoy on that power play right now, like not a difference maker at all to me. So I think OEL should be there. I think Nick Robertson should be there, but that's a whole different story, and it probably won't happen. But that's I
think he might be on the second power play.
Second power play for sure. If he plays,
stick with Riley.
He's a good shooting.
But
yeah, he's a shooting.
Great stream, boys. Thanks for the content. Yes, Shane. We'll see you on all. Well, we have a video tomorrow, like usual, every single day, but stream Wednesday. So if you want to tune into the next stream, we stream every single Wednesday at around between 5 and 6 Eastern, depending on the day. Sometimes earlier, sometimes later. But hopefully, you all enjoyed the Sunday stream. It was a good one. I enjoyed it.
Yep.
Good show,
Thank
guys.
you.
Appreciate it. Yes, sir. We more coming. So make sure you keep tuning in. A lot of stuff on the horizon. But yeah,
Wednesday. We will be live Wednesday, this Wednesday coming. So if you want to tune in for that, we will be live on
yeah,
a regular, and we will have, will we have call-ins, Nick?
we should.
We will have call-ins. It'll be
Calls
interesting.
should be enabled. Should be.
Should be.
So if you want to have your voice heard within reason, and if you want any of the emotes, then you can become a member. You hit the join button. It's a pretty cheap cost, and you can get a bunch of emotes, which will be big for the regular season because we're gonna have a lot of emotes, a lot of new emotes coming for a bunch of different players. So we can use those for our post game streams and everything like that. And yeah, I mean, Shane, you remember, so spamming all the emotes. New ones coming, but yeah. Any final thoughts, Darius? We will see you all Wednesday, I guess.
Yeah, we'll see you all Wednesday.
Or
and,
tomorrow's video. Check it out.
We'll see you in tomorrow's video, and of course, we'll see you in videos up until Wednesday. But yeah, Wednesday we'll be live again, and I'm sure we're gonna have something to talk about because stuff's been rumbling this weekend. Tomorrow's Monday. Usually there's a news drop on Monday morning, so we'll see what happens tomorrow morning.